Good morning. My roommate's father was a great one for nicknames, and he so ably nicknamed his children and grandchildren that a lot of them still go by those names now as adults. Nicknames are fun. I had one in grade school too. It's a long story, but my nickname was Mighty Heidi for a couple of years there. Names are important, and we find ourselves now at this point in Advent in the octave of Christmas, which is those last 8 days before the holiday itself, when we celebrate the 8 names, the ancient names called the O antiphons. And the O antiphons are these images of God, names of God, that are passed down from generation to generation and are found in the scriptures and found in traditional writings and writings of saints, etc. And they attempt to describe characteristics of the divine. So, for example, O wisdom, O dawn, O key of David, O flower of Jesse. These are beautiful descriptors where you ponder, what exactly does that mean when I call God by the name O wisdom or O dawn? As we know by now in our lives, all descriptions of God, of the divine, are metaphorical, right? They're metaphors, the words we use. So we describe God like this. God is like my mother, who is warm and welcoming and has a great sense of hospitality. But God is not my mother. God is like the wind that comes and is present everywhere, and I don't know where it comes from and where it goes. And yet God is like the wind because God is all present, but God is not the wind. And so we understand that descriptions of God are limited, that they give us an image, a picture of what God is like, but they do not fully sum up the divine. And why is this important? As we spend these last days before the birth of, we celebrate this Christmas season, right? The birth of Christ, of Jesus into the world. Metaphor is important because if we hold too tightly to our idea of God or the name that we have for God, it can distort what God really is like, what the divine is really like. And we can cling to one image that actually limits our ability to connect with the broader experience of God. So this Advent, as we settle in and we try and pay more attention to what people have called the divine over the centuries, and why are those names so precious to us and such a wonderful explanation of the deeper sense of the God, of the divine that we experience in our lives. There's also an opportunity to see, what do you call God? Do you have a nickname for God? Do you have a special image of God that resonates with you? And during these last days of Advent, call to mind those names and spend a little time with, how did you name God in that way? How did you come to see God in that way? And could God have more to reveal? What are the depths of the divine that we have only just begun to discover? And metaphor helps us with that, but goes much further than any image or name we could ever give the divine on our own.